What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be breaking down and better understanding pre-spawn and spawn behaviors of largemouth bass. So stick around, guys. Watch all the way through because we are giving a rod away at the end of the video. So you got to watch till the end so you know what to do to enter for a chance to win this rod. So guys, let's go ahead and dive in to this video.
Oh, that feels like a, oh my gosh, it is. Oh my gosh. God, I watched him eat it. That's a big one.
All right, guys, we are out here on Lake Guntersville. The water temps are warming up. The big bass are eating. If you've paid attention to the weights on this lake for the last month, really the last years, this lake is insane. And for those of you that don't know, this lake is full of grass, but it fishes really unique because the lower end of the lake, you can really get on that offshore type bite, bluff walls. It's like a whole different lake than it is upriver. Upriver is full of grass. You can really do a bunch of different things out on this lake, and that's what makes it so unique. But I really wanted to make this video, you know, for those that struggle understanding what the pre-spawn and what the spawn is and where these fish go and how to locate them, what baits to use to catch them. So we're going to talk about all of that in this video, and it's not just going to be Guntersville. You know, I'm going to give you some tips to help you on any body of water, whether you're on a highland lake, you're on the Tennessee River like I am, or, you know, Coosa River, something like that along those lines, you know, different types of fisheries. But primarily, you know, the TVA, these are going to be the tips that are help you on the TVA. So guys, pre-spawn, it can happen as early as January if you have a mild winter like we have very commonly down here in Alabama. I really consider it anytime those temps start peaking around the 50-degree mark. It'll really change the way that these fish are positioning and what they're looking for. So guys, let's just go ahead and jump into the map real quick. I'll show you kind of an example of what I'm going to look for as the water starts to warm up. And keep in mind, you've got to adapt this time of year because there's going to be a ton of changes. They fluctuate the water out here on the TVA system on all these lakes like crazy. So you got to be prepared for dropping and raising of the water. Water changes from clear water to muddy water. That muddy water is really textbook. It's going to push them to the bank if they have, you know, if there's enough water on the bank. Textbook wise, muddy water is going to set these fish closer to the bank. But let's look at the map real quick. I'm going to overlay a screen recording from Navionics. So this is like more of your winter staging type area right here, and you see this creek channel, so that's going to give them a pathway to move. And here's a point right here. It's got some good contour changes, some bluffs and stuff right there, so that's going to allow these fish as they move into their pre-spawn areas. You know, this is going to be a great textbook area, so these fish can, oops, screen went crazy. So these fish can roam this bank. They can move in and out, whether, you know, with the changes of water. If you got a cold front, they're probably going to push out closer to right there or suspend out here in this little ditch. So there's a lot of water elevation change. You can follow these contours and it takes you to more of a secondary point. That's a good staging area, and then you can really like just follow these fish. I mean, they're kind of predictable once you get into the spawn. You know, if they're out here when the water temp's 50, you go fishing and it's 60 degrees, let's go move further back into the spawn area. They could be on this point, or they could be all the way back in here on these docks and the shallow grass line, shallow points, stuff like that, getting ready to spawn and being more active up shallow. But you know, they also like to sit in ditches. So this is a ditch. It's going along. There's more than likely there's grass right in here on these high spots where I got the blue. I've got my shaded depth to 12 feet or less. So anything that you see blue is going to be 12 feet or less. And you know, this grass really likes to grow right there on the top of these contours. Sometimes it'll grow a little bit deeper, and that's where you can really find, you know, your pre-spawn winter type fish. But you know, they just roam. So you can troll around, idle around, you know, use your side image, use whatever technology you have to kind of give you a better percentage of catching these fish, because you want to find grass, structure, wood, stuff like that, points, contour changes, places that are really going to set these fish up to get to move in. If you're out here in a creek, so you're catching them right here on these 2 points right here or in this ditch, water temp gets warm, those fish are more than likely gonna move right up here on the bank on this island, stuff like that. So you can really follow these fish. So I mean, I know I make it sound easy, like you can follow these fish, and sometimes it really is just as simple as that, as following these fish out from their, you know, their winter pre-spawn areas up, you know, where you can visually see. Say I'm out here catching them, 50-degree water cools, or water heats up, it's 60, 65 degrees. I'm gonna push right in here to this bank. There's a lot of stuff going on in the pre-spawn. You can do a lot of different things to make fish bite, you know, whether it be bluff walls, fishing grass, fishing laydown, stuff like that. I mean, these fish are gonna kind of spread out more, as in the wintertime, they're gonna bunch up in your groups. So say you've been on a school of 30 bass, you know, in the wintertime, they're sitting out here on a point. And you know, those fish are really going to disperse and do their own thing. Some are going to go spawn up super shallow. Some are going to spawn out in 5 feet. Whatever, you know, every fish is different. When that fish is ready, they're going to spawn. They're going to find the closest structure, the closest area that they feel safe to spawn, and they're going to do it. I've caught a lot of fish out, you know, fishing a flat shell bed stuff where fish are spawning. And it's just because the water it's not deep enough up in the traditional spawning areas, and those fish are ready to lay, full of eggs, and they're gonna do it. But we're gonna talk about textbook, basic pre-spawn and spawning stuff today. So that's kind of off the wall. That happens, but it's not as textbook as your traditional spawning type areas. So guys, let's talk about baits for the pre-spawn time. I really like moving baits. That way I can cover water, because like I said, there's a bunch going on this time of year. Fish are on the move, so you want to cover as much water as you can. You know, a couple baits that are great is a lipless crank, square bill, DT6. I've got this BX Brat, or BX Rat by Rapala. It's a little I think it's a 4 to 6 diving square bill. You know, this is great. A DT6 is great. DT10 if you're on like Highland Lake and you're fishing a little bit deeper water. Color, anytime the water is below 55 degrees, especially if it's a stain, the red is going to be a great color to glue to your hands and just freaking throw it, because there's going to be fish to bite it. But shad patterns are great too, but I prefer red in my hard baits this time of year. You know, we're on Guntersville, so lipless, chatter baits, all that stuff, you know, your traditional grass baits are going to come into play. So that's what I've got tied on today. But you know, there's also different things. You know, I caught some fish on a jerkbait today, and a jerkbait is a great pre-spawn bait, because a lot of times, you know, especially like I said, if a cold front comes in, these fish are going to pull back from the bank. A lot of times they're going to pull back from the bank or either suspend, and a jerkbait is going to be killer for catching those fish. And this is a Berkeley Stunna. This is for sure my favorite jerkbait. It's a suspending jerkbait. So a lot of times what I like to do is, you know, I see the fish on my Mega Live, I'll cast it out there, reel it down, get it right above their head or close to it, and just let that bait flutter down, and then I start popping it. And you know, a lot of times if these fish are hesitant, that's going to be the highest percentage retrieve for me to catch them. But you know, sometimes you just gotta let it sit there. Sometimes you gotta work the crap out of it. There's really no rhyme or reason. Every fish is different, and they'll tell you how they want it, or if they don't want it at all. And then, you know, of course, the minnow. I'm not even gonna get that out. I don't want to talk about that. So yeah, that's the pre-spawn in a nutshell. 50 to 55-ish degrees. I'm gonna primarily concentrate on the main lake, or you know, the first little bits of the creeks. I'm not a huge creek fisherman. I just feel a lot more confident on the main lake. I feel like the big ones stay on the main lake longer. So there's really no in between for me. I'm either main lake or I'm super shallow. And sometimes it happens as quick as that. You could be catching them out there on your major early pre-spawn type deals, and a warm front blow in, the water comes up, and those fish are they're on the bank, like they're ready to do it. So let's talk about the spawn. What are we looking for? Traditionally, I'm not going to go into these spawning areas, you know, your backwaters, your pockets and stuff, until the water gets at least 57, 58. I think that's really when you're going to see the biggest, or your first wave. It's not going to be the biggest, but your first wave of bass. And I'm one of those guys that, if I can catch a couple fish up shallow, I'm gonna do it. So I go there a little bit earlier than a lot of people. I know a lot of people I fish with don't feel comfortable doing that until it's like 60, low 60s, mid 60s. But I think you miss out on a lot of fish, especially if you want to catch them shallow. So upper 50s, I start looking there. A lot of times when the water's that cool, the water level is not high. But main thing that you're looking for water level. You want it to be close to full pool. I've seen them do their thing on Wheeler when the water's a foot low, but you know, you're scraping bottom, trolling motor all the way up, getting hung up, getting stuck in these backwater areas. So it's definitely tough fishing, but I've seen them do it before. But what you're looking for is not only water temp. I feel like there's a lot of people that think water temp is the only thing that comes into play, and it absolutely does not. Length of days make a big difference. I don't know the science behind it, but I know a fish knows when it's time, when it's that time of the year, when time changes, as the days are getting longer, more sunlight on the water. It's gonna let it warm up naturally as the days get warmer too, because there's more sunlight on the water. But I think there's something scientific with it too, not just the warming of the water. But I don't know, I'm not a scientist. But length of days matter. Moon phases, you're gonna want to look for your full moons. After a full moon, I think the next one this year is April 13th, if I'm right. You know, there's a full moon roughly every month. And so moon phases are really gonna make these, or full moons are really gonna make these bass push up into the shallow areas to spawn. You know, I live by moon phases a lot in the springtime. It lets me know when that major push of fish are gonna go up to spawn. So technically your biggest wave of spawning bass happen on your full moon in April or into March, whenever it happens, and then you'll have another major wave in early May. There's normally a full moon in early May, depending on how the lunar schedule is of that year. But so first and second major full moon in March, April, and May. Those are going to be your biggest push of fish to spawn. So you're looking for water temp. Water temp needs to be close to 60. Like I said, I've seen it upper 50s before, but close to 60. Full moons, length of days, and that's really the main variables that you're looking for. So let's go to the map and we'll look at some of your more traditional spawning areas. So again, here's a little pocket slough, whatever you want to call it. This is a good pre-spawn area. That's where fish can set up. And as you see, this contour, you know, there's changes. There's a ditch that runs in here, and then there's shallow water right here. So they can be right there if it's pre-spawn, and you can follow them in like we were talking about earlier in this video. But so spawning areas that you're looking for: shallow. I like grass, whether that's, you know, your good submersive grass like milfoil, eelgrass, hydrilla, but also bank grass like weed beds. I really love weed beds, especially on Wheeler. There's not as many weed beds on Guntersville, but if you can find some weed beds or some buckbrush, lay downs, any type of structure, because these fish are going to want some structure to lay their eggs. You know, it gives them some cover. Scientifically, I think they need a hard spot for those eggs to, you know, to fully mature, to fully be able to do their thing and have a successive egg lay. And I'm really gonna drop the hard baits. I don't fish any hard baits this time of year. Whenever the fish are shallow and spawning, no hard baits. I don't do it. I'm sure you can catch them out, you know, just because you're on spawning fish up shallow does not mean that every single fish is up there doing the same thing. You could still have some pre-spawn. You could even have some in their winter type areas. It's crazy. Not every fish is the same. You know, I've seen fish spawn at the end of May into June before, you know, when the other fish are out there on the ledges and they're summertime patterns. So to say that every fish in the lake is spawning is absolutely ridiculous. So don't ever say that to anybody. But you're gonna drop the hard baits, pick up the soft plastics. One thing that is very hard to beat is a Senko. Senko is very diverse this time of year, like the Exxon Lure center stick. Right now I've got this one Texas rigged. That's a good pre-spawn bait, but it's also a good spawning bait. But I like to downsize my weight. I like to do like an 1/8 ounce weight or 3/16, something small. 3/16 if I'm flipping bushes or weed beds, or 1/8 ounce if I'm in really shallow water with not a lot of cover, or if I'm bed fishing. I like to I like to use a 1/8 ounce weight or something real small, 1/16 even. And all the time, unless I'm flipping cover or like punching thick grass, I don't like a peg on my bullet weight just because it allows it more action. But if you're flipping weed beds or buckbrush or even sight fishing, you're going to want a peg because you're going to want to be able to control that bait more. And you know, if you're free sliding a weight, you're going to get hung up, especially if you're in brush and stuff. So make sure you have a peg. Another way that I like to fish the Cinco that is really good is the wacky rig. You can't forget about the old wacky rig. 1/0 hook on that bad boy. And I throw this on a spinning rod, you know. You can't feel anything or cast it worth a hoot on a bait caster, but this is a great bait, especially out here on Guntersville. Whenever they're on the edge of the grass, they're on these little bare spots in between the grass. You can see them a lot because the water's very clear on Guntersville. But you know, not only does this work on Guntersville, but if you're on like a highland lake, a little bit deeper water, Smith Lake, you know, you can catch a lot of fish out there on Smith Lake. And if you're fishing a little bit deeper, you know, you can see, sometimes you can see like 10 to 12 feet down and see these fish on bed. You can add you a little nail weight and make a more of a Nico rig to allow that bait to fall faster, because, you know, if you're fishing a weightless worm, it's going to take a while to fall down to 10 or 12 feet, and it's not going to be as effective, even though you will get bit. But, you know, it just takes a lot of time, and especially if you're fishing a tournament, time is really important. So, you know, and another way that I like to cover water, you know, another pre-spawn bait is the chatterbait. You know, it's good for the pre-spawn and the spawn. I like to do a little bit heavier, like a 1/2 ounce or 5/8 in the pre-spawn, just because these fish are a little bit deeper, but 1/4 ounce to 3/8 in the spawn time, just because you're fishing shallower water. You're not going to want that bait to bury up and you know, keep it a little bit shallower running in the water. But another bait, one of my big go-tos, is a swim jig. I absolutely love a swim jig. Really, it's the first bait that I pick up because you know, these fish are moving up shallow. I'm covering water to try to figure out where these fish are. A lot of times they'll even eat this if they're on bed. You know, I don't know if they're on bed. I'm just throwing, I'm just casting, working a bank, and then you know, I'll catch a couple, and if they start nipping at it and missing it, that lets me know to slow down, because those fish are probably locked in on bed and not really wanting to bite, but, you know, I'm just bringing it over their bed without me knowing, and kind of triggering a bite, making that female or male a little mad that's guarding the fry on the bed. And so they, you know, they just kind of let me know that they're there by nicking at it or bumping it off the bed. And so that, then I will go through with a little creature bait or the Texas Rig Cinco. But also like a Exxon Lures Adrenaline Bug, you know, for flipping these weed beds and stuff. Kind of like the same type of stuff that I'm gonna be fishing the Cinco with. You know, just kind of keying in on those harder to reach spots in the buckbrush, weed beds, grass edges and stuff like that. But, you know, same deal, same weight, 1/8 ounce, 3/16. Pretty much doing this, fishing this bait in the same areas that you would the Cinco, Texas Rig Cinco. But yeah, kind of a 1, 2, 3 punch on the spawn baits. I throw the swim jig a lot, and then either the creature bait or the Cinco, both on the Texas Rig. But guys, I'm looking forward to fishing this way. I think most of the fish are still pre-spawn right now, especially on Guntersville from what I've seen. You know, once you're watching this video, this will be like probably a week or two after I film it. But the water temps are warming up. Tonight, or last night, was a huge cold front that blew in. It was 30 degrees this morning. It was absolutely frigid out here, and I think it really set these fish back. But you know, we got warm weather coming. I think this was the last major cold front for the spring, so warm weather's coming, water's about to start rising, and these big largemouth are going to be heading to the bank, heading to the traditional spawning areas to get ready and do their thing. So guys, that's really all I have for you today on this topic. If you've got anything that I left out, I'm sure I left out some stuff. You know, I tend to do that, and when I come back and watch this video, I'm like, crap, I left that out. But, you know, it's hard to remember everything. There's a lot to fishing. the science behind it, the experience, everything. There's a lot to it. So guys, I hope that what I taught you today will point you in the right direction if you've been struggling in the past on pre-spawn and spawn fishing. But guys, so a lot of you are still watching because you want a chance to win a rod. And so I'm gonna be giving away a Duckett Ghost 2 rod. You know, I will let you pick whatever size you want. This is a great rod. The Ghost series is one of the most popular and successful rod lineups in the Duckett family, and they brought it back this fall, or this past fall. They brought back the Ghost 2 with a new design. Man, this is a $70 rod, but really it feels like a premium, high-end, expensive rod, and I really love it. I caught most of my fish on it today, fishing a lipless, but this is a 7'3" medium heavy. But like I said, I will let you pick whatever size you want. You know, if you want a worm rod, a cranking rod, you know, whatever you want. So guys, how do you enter for a chance to win? First off, you've got to be subscribed to the channel, and before you think you can get away without subscribing, I'm checking. So be subscribed to the channel, like this video, share it with 2 friends, and let me know down in the comments when you're done. You know, you can comment done or comment something about what you learned on the video, whatever the case is. Just let me know that you liked, subscribed, and shared it with your friends. And you know, I'll be doing a Duckett rod giveaway monthly from now on. So if you haven't subscribed, you know, I hope this entices you to subscribe, because who doesn't want a chance to win a free rod? Fishing's expensive, and fishing equipment is expensive. So guys, I want to thank you so much for watching. I'm really looking forward to the spring. I'm going to be doing a lot of the things that I talked about in today's video coming up in the video. So y'all hang around on the channel, keep watching the videos. I can't thank you guys enough for the support that you have shown me in the channel here in the last really year or so. I've been growing. It's fun. I like making these videos, and I like being able to fish. So guys, we will see you in the next one.